No.
12.
When we were
Okay.
14.
Hello lovelies, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a special guest with me.
Whee! Woohoo!
What's Alright, on my Instagram I posted up a picture of us and asked you to select what you wanted us to make a video about. And there's a whole bunch of different things. The most common answer was do all of them please. So I figured we'd do like a bit of a series about our firsts. Today we're going to do our first jobs. Hubsy's the perfect person for this because his hustle is real. Take us back.
I'd like to start off with my work experience.
In the UK, when you're about 15 years old, your school will send you to a work placement. So you go and do work experience for 2 weeks.
I chose customer service, so they put us with Arcadia. Arcadia, they run like your Debenhams, Burton. When we were 14, they sent us there to work for them. I wanted Next, to be honest, because everyone wanted to work for Next.
Everyone in Leicester's worked at Next.
Little did I know that they'd be pushing us into a store that was closing down at the time, which was Principles for Women. With no training given per se, we were just told to hang clothes, nothing about how to deal with customers, what to do, how to do it. We were just like there, standing around, trying to find things for people. But how is that customer service?
My experience was the same. I was 15, I got put in New Look. Do you remember outside High Cross or Shires at the time? There was a New Look outside there, just opposite.
Yeah.
I got put into there, and yes, it was around sale time. I think it was Christmas time, and do you know what? The Christmas songs that they used to play on repeat will haunt me well, kind of haunt me. It's a bit of a guilty pleasure, those songs, because I do love them. It was the classic Mariah Carey song and all the classic Christmas songs on repeat all day.
And Sting.
Never did I witness so much savagery from fellow women as I did then in the sale times. Oh my god, people would, in New Look, right, literally be arguing over garments of clothing. For you, babe, the experience would have been something that you loathed, especially now in retrospect. Whereas for me, I actually, for someone who suffered from a bit of anxiety, I didn't know how to socially interact with people. I didn't know how to carry out a conversation with confidence. I didn't know how to do any of those things. It's a kind of a social experience. I actually liked it. Sorry, she's destroying the sofa.
The first week was obviously at Principal. The second week we were sent to Top Man, which was the opposite experience. It was so quiet. You'd be spending a lot of the time just trying to make everything so inch perfect.
What was your next job? So now you're 15, you're technically underage. That's why it's work experience and they can't pay you.
Yep.
At 16, what did you do?
After that, my dad asked me to help him out in the restaurant that he was working in, Ambala. Ambala was selling mithais and also they were selling kebabs.
Ambala is a mithai store. Mithai is Indian sweets.
Yep.
Extremely sweet Indian sweets. We're talking sugar upon sugar upon sugar. When you think it can't get any more sugary, somehow it does. Now I have to tell you guys, Ambala was like, I used to be obsessed, and then when we met and I found out your dad owns the Ambala store, I was like, oh, sweet.
Excuse the pun. At the time when I was working there, he wasn't running it until later on, a good 2-3 years after that. He asked me if he could come and work there and help. And I said, yeah, that's fine. I used to go every Saturdays and Sundays in the evening, get a bit of pocket money. I used to get like £2 an hour. But I used to say 2.5 to 3 hours in the evenings, which used to cover my football expenses when I used to play a lot of football at the time. My main jobs at the time were to cut vegetables and wash the dishes and make faluda drink, if you know what that is. But when I did that for maybe 3 hours, and it made me appreciate what my dad used to do for a whole day, standing on his feet. Now, me being young, who I would consider being fit at the time because I used to play a lot of football, I struggled with 3 hours of standing up, right? And he used to be there all day. Not only was he there all day, with the door being open and how cold he used to be there, hats off to those people, who have sacrificed their lives for us. And then after that, I started appreciating any other job that I had.
I just didn't stop working from the age of 15. As soon as I turned 16, which wasn't long after, I worked at various places. So I worked in sports soccer.
It was a lot more cramped back then as well.
It was super cramped and smelly.
Is that the one next to New Look?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
But I used to fancy the manager there. I think he was the manager. He was like quite young and Australian.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't too bad. Like I would still at least look forward to it. Yeah, you would have done. Of course you would.
Yeah, because I used to.
So whatever, that kind of mitigated the
laps.
smelliness. You what? You used to do laps, did
It
you?
was my friend's fault, it wasn't my fault.
Yeah, right. Anywho, I also worked at Clark's, and Clark's was a really big deal for me because it was the first job that allowed us to do more than just standing, loading shelves up. You had more of that customer face-to-face interaction because you were measuring people. I loved the job. It was fun. It was difficult though. So in order to get the shoes, which were in the basement, you'd measure somebody on the top floor, the main shop floor, and then you had to go down, I think it was like 2 flights of stairs into the basement, find the shoes and come up. So throughout the day you're doing that fairly constantly. So first of all, you're exhausted anyway. Second of all, that would have been fine if I was somewhere in, like, say, children's wear. They just put me in menswear because nobody else wanted to be in menswear. And there, I will never forget the experiences that have scarred me for life. Namely, why do you think I have a thing with socks?
Oh yeah.
The smell of men's feet.
She can't even handle mine.
To this day, you don't have smelly feet. It's not that. It's just the thought of the smell
No,
of
but
men's
if
feet.
my socks were on the floor, you wouldn't pick it up.
No, I don't touch socks. Like the thought of it. I mean, back then I did, but now I can't because the smell. I cannot tell you guys. I'd be holding back gagging. Oh, I'm not going to go into detail and describe the cheesy, pungent odor that emanated like steam from the shoes. Sometimes you could feel the heat from their shoes on a warm day. You know, like you took it off because you had to, as part of customer service or good customer service or the Clark's way of doing customer service, you had to physically do it. Put the shoes on, take the shoes off. Neither of us wanted to ask our parents for money because they didn't have a great deal of it. I worked for the council.
Did you?
I did phone calls, something to do with tax credits at the time. So I worked as a temp job there, I think for 3 or 6 months. I also worked at M&S around the time I was 17, 18. So I was doing my AS and my A-levels. I basically never stopped working, even when I had big exams coming up. Through all of that heaviness of school and so much that was happening in my personal life and in our home, I never stopped working. At that time when I was working at M&S, I'll never forget studying or revising on the job. Like I used to take in little note cards, in my pocket, and I'd be on, say, the fitting room, but it'd be really empty. So I'd be on my cards learning. Standing at the fitting room, I'd meet people who gave me so many ideas for characters because I used to write a lot back then as well. At that time, M&S used to pay us in cash. So we'd get given an envelope every Friday with cash inside.
Ooh,
and I remember my very first my very first payment, I went and gave it to my parents because I was like, this is my first proper cash payment from a permanent, that was my first permanent job.
Oh, they gave it?
Yeah, they gave it. Like years later, we're talking like 15 years later or something, Mum had kept that cash and she gave us like £100 or £105 or something like that, and she gave it back.
£5 as well.
Yeah, they used to pay all in £5 notes. After you finish work, you got to go and buy stuff that had been reduced in price. So you get to go and shop at the amazing M&S food, which they have some of the best food, IMO. Oh, I worked at Alders as well, I think after that.
Alders is where Primark.
Where Primark is now. Alders was another big department store. I worked there in admin upstairs. There was a lot of data input. I used to handle all the petty cash. I used to have to do all the, you know, when they bring up the tills at the end of the day and they send the cash up, I used to do the counting of that on the machines and stuff. Yeah, very responsible job.
Did you ever think at the time to take driving lessons?
No, babe.
No?
Get off my case about driving. There would be times, again, when I was 17, 18-ish, I'd come home and literally in the evenings I would be crying because my legs would hurt so much from the standing around.
Yeah.
And I couldn't afford to not go into work that day. So come rain or shine, if you've got period pain, if your legs are, whatever the case may be, I used to still drag myself to work because I just didn't want to miss out on that paycheck.
I guess one of the things that I got out of the work experience when I did, you know, the retail, right, is that I don't think this is for me.
And then when I was at uni at 18, on the weekends, I'd come back and I would work at a call centre.
So when I worked in British Gas, for example, that was my third ever job, but I didn't have the confidence to talk over the phone, so when data entry came in, I thought, yeah, perfect, don't have to deal with customers, just typing away. I could ace that, got the job, started straight away. The only downside to the job was that it was in the evenings after uni. The floor that I used to work on, there were 2 teams on that floor. One had a senior manager in it whose son used to be in my class, but I didn't know about that at the time, right? So when I got talking to my friend in class that I work for British Gas, he said, oh, my mum works there. And then he started explaining, describing her, and then I put 2 and 2 together and worked out that his mum was the senior manager on that floor. which opened so many doors for me at the time.
She was like a mother figure to you, and quite aptly her name was Joy.
Yeah.
Joy loved you.
Yeah,
like loved you like her own son.
You know, when they were making people redundant, I still got to keep my job for 5 years. So from data entry, I joined her team. After that, I moved on to complaints. They made it a fun environment. They had competition, they had activities, they had team bonding experiences, and I stuck to the job that I found.
Well, look, a job is a job. You have to do what you have to do, whether it's to support yourself, whether it's to build some kind of life outside of home, to get out of home, even for a social life, like whatever your reasoning is behind a job, at the end of the day it pays, and I think there's dignity in any kind of job.
Did you enjoy it at Alders?
At Alders, I did enjoy it quite a bit, and actually there was a great deal of autonomy in that, in like how you decided to do things. Even though there's a set procedure, you could still leave your imprint on stuff. This is so important for people who are in leadership roles, to have a look at the people who are essentially under you, or who you're in charge of, and to give them as much flexibility as possible within their role. I think that can greatly add to the amount of joy they have in the role, and therefore their productivity. Because
I think that's what British Gas gave me.
Yeah. Also, I worked for
Was it
Dorothy Perkins. I also worked for.
Did you?
Yeah.
What year was that?
Maybe that, I can't remember, but I have worked for Dorothy Perkins. So basically I've had a million jobs before teaching. All right, now like you're moving into your 19, you're 20-ish.
So when I was working at British Gas, I spent 5 years there, right? At that time, I think 1 year, or actually 2 years, I was married, right?
One thing that impressed me about him when we first met was that he had this really nice car, and I was like, how did you get this car? You work at British Gas. And he was like, yeah, I worked 12-hour days for like a whole summer.
Yeah.
And I was like,
at
wow,
that time I was still on £6 an hour or £6.50 an hour. So for 4 years I didn't get a pay rise, or until I decided I was going to leave when I was getting married, and I was given a pay rise and working less hours, right? So some concession was made.
I was teaching already when we got married. I entered teaching through the Teach First course, and then after we got married I was in recruitment for a while. I then moved to a different recruitment agency. I left that recruitment agency because it was destroying my faith in human beings in general. Although it was headhunting, essentially, it was so unethical how we had to make up fake identities for ourselves and stuff like that. It was soul crushing.
Sally Fisher here.
And do you know what? Sally here. Do you know what though? Yeah, the manager was so clever. Like the way they manipulate you, like every time I brought up my concerns, they would kind of insert these sort of stories about how this other person's a newlywed and they're doing so well here. Oh, and look, they just got a new car, and don't you want to have a better future for yourself as a newlywed for you and your hubby? Like, oh my gosh, they played mind games. But in the end, I gave up. I started taking really long lunch breaks. And then when they called me up on it, I quit. I was earning really good money in recruitment, the job that I left. It wasn't even about that. It never has been. Like for me, it's never been about, I can't sell my soul at a price. Do you know what I mean? I have to love what I do. It has to mean something to me. So I left there, and then after we got married, when we first moved out, it's a 1-bedroom maisonette, tiny, but we were so happy there. Yeah. I worked in, get this, Next admin. I took a complete step back, and I loved that job. It was really social. Sorry, I've also worked at the Next call centre. You know, when you take calls for people making orders for items on their catalogue. At some point, fit that into my history. But at this point, after we got married, I was working at Next admin, and I was basically just doing references for people. It was the easiest job, you guys. Like there was no more mental pressure. Chill office environment, loads of really funny, great characters in the office, and then after work, I'd go to the staff shop and get furniture for our new house.
Yes.
Or our new maisonette. And then I left there and did supply teaching for a while.
Yeah.
And then I finally got a job in a college, so I was teaching human biology. You had graduated and you got your first interior design job.
Yeah.
So you were working as an interior designer at that time.
I lasted there 2 years until I got made redundant. I loved the job, still have a passion for it. Didn't like who I was working for at the time.
I'm so glad. I was waiting to see if you'd say that.
I was hesitant to say it, but I'm just going to be honest. It's just the way I was treated at the time. I'm over it now. Yeah, I would still greet them if I see them, you know.
I think every experience has taught you something new, babe. So you had Joy, this human sunshine, and then you met more ruthless characters who didn't train you enough. You did so much traveling, and our car was basically really bust up.
I knew that it wasn't my work that I was doing because I was very precise in the drawings that I was doing and I was good at it. So at that time, right, I got made redundant. I just had Ibrahim actually. He was over 1 month old. The credit crunch happened. They must have been struggling at the time, and they offered me cash in hand and things like that, and I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll lose the job if I have to, but I'm not going to take cash in hand. I just had principles. They said, okay, we don't have a job for you. I go, that's fine, you know. I just left it to God, and for a good 8 months I didn't find a job after that.
And then with Pal Days you just humped. With Pal Days you just hopped on board. All the skills that you had in doing the design and stuff came in handy there.
Yeah, I mean at that time we didn't have SLR cameras. We had only a digital camera, and I had to physically spend hours editing the photos to look like they're even a decent standard to be able to buy the products.
So I had my maternity leave, started off my YouTube channel, wasn't being paid for anything. Literally, I was, you know, a new mum at the time. I was watching loads of vlogging channels, mummy vlogs, my Jumperoo, the baby products, Burt's Bees, and like basically stuff that I was discovering as a new mum, and I wanted to share it with other mums. And also makeup. So it was the first time I was like buying Bobbi Brown makeup. I'd do like makeup review videos. And so literally these videos were not a source of income for me. They were a passion, and so obviously I still needed a job, so I went back to work at school.
With Pearl Daisy, the money that we were earning, we weren't earning it per se, we were putting it back into the business to build the inventory.
And then when I got pregnant with Alina, that's when I left teaching, and that was purely, finally I put myself first. And I was so sick. I made a video about my labours, actually, go and check it out, it's on my channel somewhere. I constantly had a migraine for like 3 months.
Yeah.
I was depressed, just in a room. It was really tough, that pregnancy. And so I decided to leave, and I'm so glad that I did. Through God's blessings, we were able to establish other means of income.
Yeah. So when you first became a content creator, like 3 years into the job, when you first got noticed by Bobbi Brown, is that right?
Yeah. I think I just made it onto the YouTube partner program, so you'd get like pennies. And then brands began to notice that there was this potential to be seen worldwide by influencers. It worked out pretty well because I could do what my strengths were and you could do what your strengths were. So where it came to photography, videography, with set design, with creative ideas, with the boring admin work, anything to do with accounts and all of that, you can carry that part of the business, and I can carry the other part which brings me to life, the stuff that I'm passionate about. Unless you quit next week and say you want to do interior design.
I quit. I want to do interior design.
No, I need you.
Yeah.
So you just never know where the journey stops, and I think that's the wonder and the joy and the excitement of life.
So this job as a content creator has been your longest job, I would say, right?
This has been my longest job, 10 years.
Yeah.
Over 10 years.
Technically it's fine as well.
I think we'll leave this video here for now. I think we've covered enough of our work experience, and I guarantee 5 more jobs that I've done will come to me in the middle of the night. So comment below and let me know what your jobs in the past have been and what you learned from them, and if you want, tell me what you do now. Again, thanks to everybody who left a comment and voted on that Instagram post. If you guys want to go and check out my Instagram, then I'll leave a link for it in the description box under this video. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, hit like if you enjoyed, and I will catch you soon in my next video.